Today, we're diving into something we all do, but maybe don't think about in this way, writing. And no, we're not talking about grammar rules or finding the perfect adjective. We're going way, way deeper. We're going to completely deconstruct the idea of the self that holds the pen, and we're going to use some pretty wild insights from neuroscience to do it. Let's get right into it.
Okay, so let's just kick things off with a question that might feel a little weird. When you sit down to write, who's actually running the show? I mean, the obvious answer is me, of course, I am. But what if that I isn't really a single person at all? What if it's actually a crowd?
To even begin to answer that, we've got to challenge our most fundamental assumption, this idea of a single unified you. You know that feeling, right? Of being one person, the captain of your own ship? It feels completely, totally real. But as it turns out, the science tells a very, very different story.
That feeling of a singular self, well, it isn't your natural state. It's actually an incredible achievement. Think about it like this. Your brain is working around the clock like a masterful storyteller, weaving together this one coherent narrative from thousands of competing signals, urges, and thoughts. It creates this powerful illusion that there's a single CEO in the corner office. But it's just that, an illusion.
So let's look at the evidence for this, because it really does suggest that your mind is less like a kingdom with a single ruler and much more like a noisy committee. And here's the crazy part. This isn't just some neat metaphor. It might be a literal description of how your consciousness actually functions. Some of the most stunning proof comes from these remarkable cases involving split brain patients. When the connection between their two brain hemispheres is severed, they can literally act with two different wills. You can have one hand trying to button up a shirt while the other hand is actively trying to unbutton it. And that's not just some random glick, you know? It's a peek behind the curtain, showing us the brain's natural multiplicity that's usually hidden from view.
And this brings us to this amazing character in our brain called the interpreter. In these experiments, you can get the patient's nonverbal right brain to make their hand point to a picture of, say, a shovel. But when you ask the verbal left brain, hey, why'd you do that? It doesn't say, I have no idea. No way, it instantly makes up a story. Something plausible like, oh, because you need a shovel to clean out the chicken coop. It's like an internal press secretary just spinning a logical story to keep up the appearance that one rational self is in charge.
So, this all leaves us with three pretty radical possibilities for who you really are. 1, are you that single unified CEO we all think we are? 2, are you more like a two-person partnership, a talkative narrator and a silent doer? Or 3, the most mind-bending idea of all, are you actually a whole crowd of conscious agents, where the you experience is just whichever one managed to win the last debate and grab the microphone?
Okay, so if your mind is a committee, how does certain members get louder and more powerful than others? Well, the answer is simple. You're training them. Every single day, your life is basically a curriculum, a training ground that shapes which version of you is most likely to show up at any given moment.
Yeah, just think of it like an internal parliament. Each member represents a different drive or desire. You've got the part of you that wants deep focus, the part that's craving distraction, that little spark of creativity. They're all in there, all fighting for control, but only one can have the microphone at a time. The real question is, which one are you constantly training to be the loudest speaker in the room?
Every choice you make, big or small, it's a form of practice. That hour you just spent doom scrolling on your phone, that wasn't just wasted time. Nope, it was active training for the part of your mind that craves novelty and needs that external reward. On the other hand, an hour spent deep in a book, well, that strengthens the neural coalitions responsible for patience and focus. You're always training something.
And this is the choice we're making, day in and day out. The real cost of our habits isn't just the time we lose. It's what some call state training. We are actively, physically conditioning our own nervous systems. So, are we building a mind that can generate its own focus and curiosity from within? Or are we building one that constantly needs to outsource its sense of aliveness to a screen?
Okay, let's bring this all full circle. Back to writing. How does this whole mind as a committee model completely change how we think about putting words on a page? Because, well, if your mind really is a committee, then the act of writing is not what you think it is at all.
So forget that romantic myth, the writer who just transcribes a perfect, fully formed movie playing in their head. The reality is so much messier, and honestly, so much more interesting. Writing is the difficult, frustrating, beautiful process of getting all those different parts of your brain, the part that sees images, the part that understands language, the part that feels emotions, to form a temporary alliance. It's an act of assembly, not dictation.
And this right here, this is the key. For any writer, this is everything.
Your mind is just a storm of competing fragments and half-formed ideas. But the written sentence, that's the tool that forces a choice. It collapses all that swirling ambiguity into one single concrete thing on the page, and that gives all the other systems a stable point to rally around. The words on the page are what create the thought, not the other way around.
So, what does this do to our sense of free will? If we can't just command our mind like a king ordering his subjects, what's our role in all this? It means we need a huge shift in perspective. We have to go from being a controller to being a cultivator.
This means we have to just totally abandon that old model of the author as king, demanding results through sheer willpower, right? Instead, we become more like a steward or maybe a coach. The real work isn't fighting your inner critic into submission. It's about designing an environment, a whole curriculum for your mind, that makes the creative, focused parts of your committee more likely to actually show up and want to take the microphone.
So in the end, real agency isn't about control in the heat of the moment. It's all about the patient, long-term curriculum you design for your own mind. The self that sits down to write isn't the one you command. It's the one you've spent months, maybe years, training to show up. So the final question isn't just, who is in charge when I write? It's, what kind of self am I training into existence, choice by choice, day by day?